Hello, I'm Scott Beardsley, here today with Dominic Barton, Global Managing Partner of consulting powerhouse McKinsey Company. Dominic leads the firm's focus on the future of capitalism and the role of business leadership creating social and economic value. He's a prolific author and expert on business in many regions of the world, particularly in Asia. I also had the privilege of being his colleague at McKinsey for 26 years. Dom, welcome to Darden. Dom, at a global consulting firm like McKinsey, you get incredible insight into the trends happening around the world. What do you see are the trends that clients are focusing on the most?
I think there's a lot of them going on right now. I mean, because of all the big underlying shifts that are happening in the world, the re-rise of Asia, Africa, technology shifts, aging, and all of that. I'd say that the biggest trend I see is business model redesign. So companies really rethinking how they add value and at a more fundamental level. So business model redesign, organization change, how delayering, flattening, the introduction of advanced analytics and digital into organizations, building resilience. So there's a range. Those are probably the four things that I see the most.
Yeah, and when you look around the world, we see an incredible amount of unrest, geopolitical uncertainty. How are clients starting to think about that, and how does McKinsey work with them to manage economic and social uncertainty? What are some of the things that are done?
Yeah, it's a new area. We weren't taught to deal with that. You sort of assumed geopolitics was like you work within a box, but that box is shifting.
Yeah.
And it, by the way, this all reflects for us too, right? We have a significant Russian practice, a Chinese practice. So these changes affect us as we go through it. I think there's two ways that we try and do it. One is that I think it's very important to have a scenario of what you think it might be, and you can't pick one place. So you need to have, this is where I said resilience matters. If something goes pear-shaped in one area, you got to be able to have a supply chain, for example, that will work somewhere else. We'll give you an example. Ford has, did an excellent job in South Korea. If something ever happened with North Korea, they could very quickly, reshift their supply chain. It's absolutely critical to do that. So that's one dimension, is being prepared on the scenario side for where it is.
Do you see people worried about things like trade wars or democracy or just underlying models of society that are changing?
Absolutely. I mean, I think geopolitical risk has now become a top risk issue. 5 years ago, it wasn't on the table, right? So it's for CEOs around the world. But as you said, it's societal issues too. I think the Brexit vote was a pivot point. It shocked people because no one thought it would happen, and it's a societal shift, is what you said, and that's happening in lots of places. And the question is, what can you do about it?
So turning to leadership in that context, I know both McKinsey and Darden place tremendous emphasis on developing leaders. What do you view are the key traits that we can help to develop in our employees, our students, or our clients to become great leaders? What is needed today?
Well, I think there's a couple of dimensions, and you and I have talked about this before. I think one is actually this global mindset. I mean, we're in a global world. Even if there's localization occurring, you just have to understand what's happening in different parts of the world. So there's that. You need to understand, have that view, and you worked all over the world. And I think you are comfortable being in Saudi Arabia, Korea, Belgium. It didn't matter because you understood different cultures and that people acted and operated in different ways. It was like you could swim in different waters. So I think you have to be comfortable in different cultures of how people make decisions and how they think about things. I think the second is you actually have to know some people in those places who can help you. So building relationships, who do you know in China? It doesn't mean they represent China, but they can help you. You have a connection, you know what's going on. It's a network. I think it's very important to have a global network, and that you don't have to visit them all the time, or you're on the phone, you do things with them. I think that's an important part of it. And I think, by the way, it's also, you can be global locally. I think, who do you hang around with in the local place that you are? There's a lot of people from, I see it in the flags here, there's a lot of global people here. So in the student population, yes. Do you know the person from, I get to know the person from Nigeria. I think the other part is, is around character. It's around who you are. Like, you need to be resilient. You need to have purpose. You need to be able to compartmentalize issues. You have to be short-term and long-term at the same time. These are kind of like different types of leadership muscles than we've talked about, because there's volatility. And I think that's quite different than what we've experienced in the last 20 years, the level of volatility.
As you think about the world and business, what makes you the most optimistic and what worries you about the business world?
Overall, I'm optimistic, even though there's a lot of volatility. What makes me optimistic is I actually think technology is going to be able to unleash even more creativity in humans. I mean, some people have called it the indigo economy, right? This is the notion of it's humans with technology. And you think about Indonesia, if we can educate another 30 million people, I'm sure there's 7 Einsteins that are in that population. But so the ability to allow more people to participate in the global economy through digitization, you'll get financial inclusion, education. I think the human, we're going to basically, I think, triple our human computing power, which gets me excited. I just can't even imagine what it is, but I feel good about it. And I think it'll also, hopefully be more informed, about what works and doesn't work, and we can't be fooled by people who are telling us BS, and so because we have that that's the part that makes me excited. And there's a huge demographic boom from in these markets like Africa and Indonesia and India and so forth. So I'm excited by that. What I'm worried about is from a business point of view, is our institutions globally are not fit for purpose, right? It was designed, right after World War II, the world changed fundamentally. And so I worry about, with this huge amount of opportunity, how that's shared prosperity. I worry about our how democracy works. Are we able to pick leaders who can lead? Are they going to be short-term? It's very difficult being a politician. I mean, it's hard to be long-term. You get booted out. So it takes really brave leaders to be able to do something, and we don't have a lot of those. So I worry about that. But I'm overall optimistic. I think we're creative. As I said, even with that, you look at the International Space Station in a bizarre way inspires me, because even with conflict, our scientists can actually work together to do something for the future. That I find that makes me happy. And why can't we do more of that? And I think we can.
Great. Thank you very much, Dominic.
Thanks, Scott.